Thanks, Jonathan, for that introduction and for letting us know what's been going on at the USGS level. Today, I want to talk a little bit about a story of some heartache and some hope, and how we, working as a community, can help to reduce landslide impact in our communities. And my experience is based in North Carolina, but I expect that this story could be similar in many parts of the country. And I'll start with telling you a little bit about a rainfall event that happened on May 18th of 2018. This happened in Polk County, which is in the southern portion of the Blue Ridge in western North Carolina. That evening, around 10 o'clock at night, the North Pacolet River Valley area experienced between 9 and 12 inches of rain and experienced multiple debris flows due to this rainfall. This first photo here, you can see a debris flow on the right side that started about 10 o'clock at night. And there was a couple, a husband and wife, who lived down in the valley there between those two drainages. And around 10 o'clock at night, their home was struck by that landslide coming on from the right side there. They tried to get out and were able to get to their garage, but due to health complications, the wife was unable to go further. Her husband was able to get out and went to try and get some help. While he was gone, the garage was struck by a debris flow coming from the drainage on the left side. The second photo shows the location of where the home and garage used to be, outlined in black. And you can see the roofs of the home and the garage pushed together in the center of the photo there. This is just one story of many, many that are out there that talks about people being impacted by landslides that had no idea they were living in a landslide area. This photo shows what was downstream of their home, and this mud really impacted how quickly emergency responders could get there, and gives you a sense of how powerful these debris flows can be, how much soil and rock and tree material is really coming down with these debris flows. This event these landslides are just two of the over 3,900 that we know of in western North Carolina. That number is taken from two separate mapping programs. One was with the North Carolina Geological Survey. That mapping program started after deadly debris flows in 2004. My business partner and I, along with 5 of our co-workers at the time, worked for the North Carolina Geological Survey, producing landslide hazard maps for the counties that you see in blue on this map. Unfortunately, in 2011, the Geological Survey North Carolina lost its funding, and that program ended. Recognizing that people still needed landslide information, we started Appalachian Landslide Consultants, a private consulting firm, and were able to get funding to do mapping for the county, for Haywood County, the watersheds that you see in green. And we also worked with Jackson County to get funding to map the rest of Jackson County as well. This is just one example of a state or communities coming together to better understand the hazards that are impacting their citizens. But these landslide inventory and hazard mapping programs are happening in many other states in the US. And this is a figure that I've modified from one available on the USGS several years ago, and it may not be complete, but it gives you a sense of the efforts that are being made out there to try and help people protect their communities. Today, I wanted to walk you through some of the steps that it takes in order to put together a landslide mapping program, things that you may need or you may be able to contribute to in order to help your community protect themselves from these landslides. Because it really comes down to having an understanding of the hazard and then knowing where to go, what to do, and how to get out of the way. Typically, landslide mapping programs include some type of landslide inventory and then some type of modeling. The maps shown here are ones that were put together during the North Carolina Geological Survey's mapping program. The first one on the left shows the slope movement and slope movement deposits map, which is a fancy word for inventory. The middle one shows the stability index map, which is a model that shows where debris flows might start. And then the third one shows the potential debris flow pathways map, or areas that could be impacted downslope. So if the husband and wife had access to these maps, perhaps they would have known their home was in one of these potential debris flow pathways and they could have gotten out. Unfortunately, the maps weren't produced for Polk County and that information wasn't available. The maps aren't the only components to landslide mapping projects. Perhaps the biggest component is working with stakeholders and getting people's buy-in, talking with the community. What do they need? How passionate are they about protecting themselves, or just getting a better understanding and education out there for people, because these landslides don't happen all the time. People forget in between. So many of the project components include stakeholder outreach, and that's throughout the program. Finding funding, which can be challenging. Sometimes that comes from state, federal sources. Sometimes it's from the local government, and it can come from nonprofits and grant organizations. Sometimes you have to be creative. I've already discussed the inventory component and the susceptibility, hazard, and risk modeling component of projects. Then there's also the producing of the maps, distributing of the maps, and again, stakeholder and public education about the maps. That's really how they're going to be used. The inventory components often will combine a remote sensing element as well as a field verification element. Jonathan mentioned the use of LiDAR, and that's one of the tools that we use in order to identify areas that have the morphology or the look, the topography look of what a landslide looks like. We also use historic aerial photos, sometimes dating back to the 40s, to identify areas that could be landslides. We typically then will create a database, and what we've been using is a geodatabase so that the points are spatially tied and information is in those points. And then we combine a field verification component. So we go out, look at these features that we've identified remotely, and collect data about them. Here's an example of a landslide inventory. This is one from the online map viewer that we put together for our Haywood County work. You can see the red points. Those are all landslides that have occurred on slopes that have been modified by construction of some sort. And then the green points are landslides that have happened on natural slopes. And this is just one example of what an inventory can look like. Typically, people need more information than just to know where landslides have happened. They want to know where they might happen. And that's where the modeling comes in. There are different layers of this modeling. One can be creation of susceptibility maps, which basically shows areas that have a higher likelihood or the potential for landslides to start. Sometimes this is based on where they've happened in the past. Sometimes it's based on other types of models. So there's a variety of different types of susceptibility maps that are models that are out there. The next step is creating hazard maps, where you combine your susceptibility map with other factors such as rainfall or earthquake probability. So you have a probability assigned to a landslide event. And then the next level up, which is perhaps the most useful but also the most difficult to create, are the risk maps. These risk maps identify structures or infrastructure, things that people care about and rely on that could be impacted, and define a value on that, so that then the map can be rated to show here are the highest value areas that we really need to protect or evacuate or take care of. That's really important information. Here's another example of the inventory and susceptibility maps. This is again one that we created for the Haywood County project we worked on. One thing that we learned through our mapping programs is that the words that we use make a difference. People need to be able to understand what the layers mean. So what we did when creating these maps is that we called the areas in purple The places where natural debris flows might start, we called them just that, where natural debris flows might start. Then the areas in teal that go downslope that indicate where natural debris flows might go, that's what we called the layer. And then the third layer we created, we called the slope construction caution area, because those are places where we noticed if people are constructing on slopes over that, within those areas, there can be a higher likelihood of landslides on modified slopes. So we wanted to point that out too. As far as outreach goes, this could be the most critical component of the project. Without buy-in, the mapping does no good because people won't use it. So in identifying stakeholders, it's really important to get someone from every aspect of the community, those that are in favor and those that are not in favor, because everyone's voice needs to be at the table, especially in this age of fake news and people talking about things that they don't necessarily know everything about. It's really important they get the message from the people who know what's going on. And perhaps you're one of these people and can help spread the message that's being discussed. We've found that having pre-project meetings where stakeholders can bring their questions about or their doubts about this project, let them come, let them express those, answer their questions. If you don't know the answer, find it out for them. Continue having those meetings and giving progress reports throughout the project, and then create a transparent and accessible product. We recognize the need for information about the maps to be out there. So we created a user's guide with the mapping that we have done so that people can get a better idea of if they see their home or their area of concern within these features, what did they do next? And we created a flowchart so they can find that answer. What it really comes down to is a continued conversation throughout the community, and that involves the geoprofessionals, the government, which is local, state, federal, all levels, other private firms, as well as nonprofits, the public, and emergency management, and many others that aren't in this graph, to really work together so that we can protect our communities from events like the one that happened in Polk County last May, and like the one that Jonathan discussed in California last January. It's really us as a community that works together. So if you feel compelled to fill one of these roles, please take ownership of that and go forward with it, because it's really up to all of us to protect our communities. Thanks.